Hi, it's Dr. Sherry. 2020 has been a year of trauma. I don't think I really need to convince any of you that that's the case. But first, let me clarify. There's what we call big T trauma, and there's what we call little t trauma. Big T trauma is when something totally earth-shattering happens. It usually is related to the threatening of your own life or the life of somebody that you have witnessed. Okay, that's big T trauma. That's typically what happens when people go into mental health treatment and maybe have a diagnosis of PTSD. That is not what we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk about trauma in the context of a little t, meaning that almost everybody, probably the entire world, would fall under having experienced the little t trauma this past year in 2020. These are all the things that we had experienced trauma over. Health. I mean, we're concerned about our own health with the coronavirus. We're concerned about the health of the people we love. Some of the people that we know have gotten sick, have gotten in the hospital, may have actually passed away. But the majority of people, there's just this sense of fear around our health or the health of others. Economic and financial trauma. A lot of us have had to stay home. Some people have lost their jobs. Some people weren't able to work for a period of time, so they lost income, or there's the threat of losing income and not really being sure what's going to happen. Not only did that happen, some of these things happen in a moment, but then there's like, oh crap, what's going to happen, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, next year? Am I still going to have my job? I don't know. There's political trauma. I mean, there is, we had in the US here, we had the election and people arguing about the different sides of all of these issues, which is normal. That does happen with any election. But this year it seemed so much more intense and raw than it has in the past. And then we have the mental health trauma of the social separation that we've had, and then the social trauma that goes with that. I wasn't able to have the Thanksgiving dinner that I'm used to having with my extended family. I'm not able to travel like I would expect to do or what I've done in the past over Christmas, and I've missed those opportunities to connect with people. I haven't connected with so many friends and family personally in person for so long. That, in and of itself, is a small t trauma. And how about the education of our kids? That is a trauma to them. They weren't able to have the interactive experience learning like they normally would. And in that, they also weren't able to have the socialization of the learning like they normally would. And how about religious trauma? A lot of churches went for a period of time without having services, or they went with their services virtually. And come on, guys, we all know that virtual is the next best thing to real life, but it's the next best thing. It's not as good as in a lot of ways. And so for those of us that are Christian, as an example, and we have communion as part of our tradition and our rituals, we can't do group communion when we're doing virtual services. And so there has been an impact religiously for a lot of people. And the list goes on all the different kinds of small t traumas that we have experienced over 2020. So here's the big question that really is relevant to almost every single person on earth. So how do we move through and past that impact? That is the question that every single one of us has to deal with. I'm going to address this with 5 areas, 5 things that can help you move through the small t trauma that you've experienced over 2020 and maybe will continue to experience into the next year, but you don't have to stay stuck. So today we are going to talk about the first thing. And the first thing you must do anytime a trauma happens is you have to accept the fact that it is. And it happens. If you continue to fight and continue to refuse the facts, you're going to stay stuck in a battle inside yourself that what just happened didn't happen. And that's going to cause a lot of internal turmoil, because part of you is like, oh my gosh, this thing happened. I need to figure out how to deal with it. How do I process it? How do I catalog it into the experiences that I've had in my life, in my brain? But the other half of you is like, oh no, this didn't happen. Don't worry about it. It's not real. It didn't really impact you. So there's this war inside of you between, yes, it happened and it impacted me, but no, it didn't happen. Or maybe, yes, it happened, but it didn't really impact me, okay? Accepting it, moving through the denial and accepting what happened. The next piece of accepting is now looking for what we call agency. What that means is accepting what happened doesn't mean that you're accepting that you are helpless. Once you accept what has happened, shift your brain, shift your mind into looking for ways in which you can change things for yourself, ways in which you have agency. Even if it's just in your own life today, if you can do something that shows that you have control over something in your life, that is life-changing to your mindset, in which you would have been stuck in feeling the trauma of 2020. But now you can move into, how can I change things? How can I impact my own life in a way that's intentional? This is huge. It may seem simple and it may seem like a no-brainer, like, well, of course, but I'm telling you, if you can pay attention every day to doing the things that you have control over and helping those around you to see their control and their agency, it is the foundation to shift you out of staying in the emotional trauma of 2020. So stay tuned, and we're going to address 4 more things that you can do to move yourself through the trauma of 2020.